and they're like, what is
Never heard of
this
sugar in
yoga?
your soil.
Okay, so most of the time the people
Control
that
your
they're
emotions,
that
not
they've
break
been
under pressure.
painted
All this
is
stuff is
We are one of the very few
meditating,
businesses, organizations
you know.
where you
So
can shop
really
great
online.
tips already off the bat, and we're just starting.
Go to Top Box.
Hello and welcome to Healthier Habits, a podcast that discusses challenges and solutions when it comes to health and wellness, as well as connecting you to some local resources in Chicago. My name is Cassandra Zumba.
And I am Yakwache and will be your host. We are the Policy, System, and Environmental Coordinators here at the Chicago Partnership for Health Promotion, a program from the Office of Community Engagement and Neighborhood Health Partnerships at UIC.
In today's episode, we'll be talking about community gardens. We'll chat about misconceptions, evolution of community gardens, and how to start your own at your workplace.
Our guest for today is Orrin Williams, our colleague, a Food Systems Intervention Coordinator at CPHP. Orrin co-produces a podcast called The Roots Watering Hole. This podcast shares information about gardening education, food literacy. It also focuses on topics related to our ecosystem, health and wellness, lifestyle, the arts and humanities. Orrin has numerous years of experience serving BIPOC communities in Chicago.
Hi, Orrin. How are you doing this morning?
Hello, Cassandra, and yeah, good to see y'all.
How was your day? How was this morning? What went wrong? What went right?
Well, I woke up and I showered, so it's all good.
It's nice to have you on here.
Yeah, I appreciate both of you as well.
Yeah, well, yes, thank you for being here. So we're thinking for today, we'll start with a little icebreaker.
Yes.
Yeah, came up with or looked up some myths of gardening, kind of true or false. So there's like a two-parter here. We're going to go through like a fast round and then just another round, which is a little more, you can elaborate. So I'm going to go through a few of, misconceptions or myths. You let us know what your thoughts, if it's true or false, if you have anything to add or anything you want to say about it. So
Do I get prize money?
we can talk after the pod. We'll see. We'll see.
All right. I usually do my contracts first. But...
Well, next time we'll know. For the next episode, you're with us then, right?
Got you. Okay.
Sprinkling coffee grounds around acid-loving shrubs lowers the soil pH. True or false? Thoughts?
The jury is out. Some people suggest that's true. Some people say don't do it. So I would, if I was going to take that approach, I would maybe do a couple of plants and not others and see how that works out.
All right. Okay. So test and trial then. 2, baking soda cures black spots.
No, I'm not familiar with that one.
Good to know.
I have my trusty library, so. And in fact, I just got a new book a few days ago about pests in the garden. So, I rely on that and people that I know, like Selma Sims, who heads up Gardeneers, who's an agronomist, and Dr. Akila Martin, who we co-host and co-produce with. So I rely on our local folks if I don't know how to deal with something or identify it or whatever the case may be. So those sources are available through us and through Chicago Grows Food as well. So there's plenty of resources to help people out that are experienced or new gardeners.
And that's all good to know because, like we said, these are misconceptions we just found on the internet, and we know how the internet is very misleading sometimes.
Right.
So having a source here, you, Orrin, is very helpful because I don't really have a green thumb.
I don't either.
So if I read it, I might believe it.
Right.
Your thumb is greener than you think, but anyway, we'll get into that later.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
Right.
Next one. If you add sugar to the soil around your tomatoes, you'll grow a sweeter vegetable.
Never heard of that one.
So that's something the internet made up.
Yeah, and that said, there are companion plants that help with different things. So you want to plant companion plants near certain crops, and there's other plants you don't want to plant near certain crops. So again, that's information that's available to folks, but Never heard of sugar in your soil.
Okay, what
Sugar in your
about
lemonade, but not in your soil.
In the soil.
okay, what about this one? Don't water your plants foliage on a hot day or they will burn up.
That is good advice. In fact, my advice to people with watering is water early in the morning or near the time it gets dark, dusk, and do not water your leaves. Only water your soil, whether it's containers or in ground or whatever the case may be.
Okay.
Water is not good, especially at night. If you're going to get your leaves wet, it's better to do it during the day because you have sunlight, you have wind, you have all of that. At night, that can lead to some things that you don't want to deal with in your garden. So there's potential for pest issues from wet leaves, particularly at night.
Those are really great tips already off the bat, and we're just starting.
Yeah.
And that's one of the ones I was mentioning to Ya earlier. That's probably the only advice I kind of recognize because that's something my mom would always do in the summers, especially. She would get up early. She would water the plants. I'm like, just do it later. You don't have to get up that early. She's like, nope, because it's gonna fry my plants. I have to do it early. I was like, oh, okay.
Mom is right.
Mm-hmm. All the
Mom is
time.
always right.
Okay, last few. Let's see. Talk to your plants and they'll grow better.
I'm a plant talker, plant whisperer. So
Okay.
I would
What about
say
singing?
yes on that one. People might think you're weird, but who cares?
I heard singing also works too.
Singing and playing nice music for them. I do all of that kind
All
of
of
stuff.
that.
Oh, that's nice. Okay, planting marigolds to keep the bad bugs away.
Marigolds is a good choice. I think that I don't think people should always include flowers in their vegetable garden because it does attract beneficial bugs that help to maintain pest control, but also it attracts pollinators, which many of your things like tomatoes and squash, those sorts of things need. So always integrate flowers into your system. And I will add herb plants to that as well. Marigolds is always a good choice. That's a good first choice and standard choice, but there are other choices as well. If people are really interested in that and want to add things to their garden that are really beneficial, they should think about native plants to their region. So think about adding natives from your region into that. And there's a whole array of those things. So again, local resource, the best local resource is Chicago Grows Food. People can reach me through that and of course through UIC. If I don't know the answer, I know somebody who probably does. So yeah, flowers are essential.
And you mentioned planting plants that are, in your area. What would you say are plants that grow well in Chicago?
So your question was, what are the best native plants for Chicago?
Yes.
So like black-eyed Susans, like what do we have? We have zinnias. They're annual though, but they've been seeded and after a season or two, they start self-seeding anyway. I like marigolds, zinnias, dahlias, sunflowers are always great. And you got a variety of sunflowers. Most people only think about the very tall varieties, but there's some smaller varieties as well. And they attract pollinators and even birds eat the seeds and all of that. We kind of don't pull stuff up in the fall because actually the seeds and what's left over from the season actually are beneficial for the birds to stay in Chicago. And so that's the opportunity for them to feed throughout the winter as well. So flowers are essential, and that's a great question. Thanks for that.
No problem. And then just to end off this little icebreaker, what is your favorite kind of plant
to grow, whether in your home or to teach others to grow?
Oh, green leafy vegetables are my favorite.
Okay.
And one reason why is they're pretty hardy, particularly like the collards and the kale. With this crazy weather we have, some of the other ones like mustard greens and those kind of things, they might bolt. I recommend growing stuff like that in the fall, broccoli, all of that, because we don't have consistent weather anymore.
Mhm.
Green leafy vegetables, they are cold tolerant, they're heat tolerant. Like I said, particularly collards and kales. We have a project that we're doing this season and hope to do and following years and seasons is we are actually distributing I think 12, 14 varieties of collard greens, several varieties of okra, several varieties of tomatoes, all beans and peas, all from what we call the African diaspora. So some of them are more familiar to people on the continent, and some are pretty, you know, broad-based in terms of who grows them. So we're excited about that. With Tracy, who I think you all did a podcast with, I'm sure you did.
Yes.
She's been really dealing with that program, and we have seeds started at Urban Growers Collective here in South Chicago. And we also have seeds being started by the Chicago Growers Food People, Gardeners, and some other organizations as well. And to your topic, we are distributing seeds to community gardeners and home gardeners as well.
Okay, Orrin, we don't want you to just give out the whole entire information just yet. So,
Okay.
right. we want them to stay and listen to the whole entire podcast. But let's get into your background. What led you to focus on gardening? What brought that passion to gardening?
Well, I did it as a little kid, right? No kind of formal understanding or any of that. My great grandmother, who lived in Florida, she had chickens and all that kind of stuff, and so I had the spark, if you will.
Okay.
My maternal grandparents were, I think I channeled them as well. I found out later in life that they were spectacular victory gardeners. Victory gardens, particularly during the First and Second World War, my understanding is, and I don't know if I have the correct figure, is 40 to 50% of the food grown in Europe and the United States during the war periods were done by victory gardens. So that sort of did it for me. And then growing up in the Inglewood community with the disinvestment and the block I grew up on, there are no houses left on the side of the street that I grew up on. Looking at that neighborhood and going like, oh, what can we do with this land?
Yeah.
It made sense to me to do something like grow food, which I completely knew nothing about, but advocated for and have since been on that journey of 30 plus years probably now. So and it was really more of an urban planning exercise.
Yeah.
But also I always wanted to farm, and my wife didn't want to go farming.
Yeah.
So the compromise was doing things in the city, and now she takes over the stuff at home at any rate. And the urban farming community here that I've been part of since its inception has grown exponentially. So yeah, it's been quite a journey and an interesting one.
Yeah, and that's one thing we wanted to touch on too. What has been the evolution, or what have you seen different between when you started out in urban growing to now?
Yeah.
Well, one of the things is getting government on board and what that interface is, and recognizing even when we started working closely with the city, then they can't do anything really without an ordinance. So there's different ordinances and different departments within departments, if you will, that have integrated gardens and urban farms into their mix. So that's been real important. Also, just the interest in what the possibilities are for growing stuff hyper locally, if you will. And I think for me too, the interest in home gardening is beginning to explode as well. Part of that is also related to a former mayor who I will not name. She did not do well with the whole concept. And so one of the things that was discussed was, well, we have acres and acres of backyards and porches and all kinds of other stuff. So why don't we shift our focus while other folks are still doing, of course, the work with the urban farms, and we still work with them. Why don't we shift our focus to what we can do at home?
Yeah.
Right, especially with the pandemic that hit, it
Yeah.
really switched our focus from being out within people to trying to do something that is a little, I don't want to say isolated, but a little more personal, maybe.
Well, that's a great point, Cassandra, because Chicago's food grew out of, and quick story, I was at St. Sabina, and we were there with a bag full of seeds, and we were going to start seeds that day. We get a call from Dalen Duffelmeyer, who says, it's here, go home immediately. I mean, seriously, right? And so the group sort of stayed together, if you will. And then we created Chicago Grows Food as a coalition of different people, like Saint Sabina and Big Green and Healthy Schools Campaign and other entities, Open Lands, so that we wanted to try to give students that were home something that they can do by giving them this grow bag kit with soil and a seedlings, a grow bag, that sort of thing, a booklet. So we tried to stay engaged that way. And we're still here. I can't even tell you the thousands of grow bag kits that we've given out. And in the last 2 or 3 years, we've installed over 100 home-based gardens as well. So, and systems as well. So, yeah, that's real important, I think. And the pandemic created some good innovation. If there's a silver lining from a pandemic, I think we innovated some good programs with our partners.
So for those that don't know what grow bags are, can you describe a little bit what they are?
Yeah, they are a bag that you can purchase, typically made of fabric. You can purchase them online. I'm not going to promote any entity. You put in grow bags in your search engine and the stuff will pop up. They come in denominations between a gallon up to things that you can't even move, 100, 200 gallons.
Wow.
I didn't even know that.
For me, the sort of default grow bag is 5 gallons. You can get bigger or smaller than that. This year, I think I'm going to try to grow herbs as a sort of separate ecosystem in like 20-gallon bags. But most of our bags will be 5-gallon bags. And again, with folks like Selma and Selma Sims, the Gardeneers, and me, now we're starting to look at what your yield can be. So how many collard green plants will fit nicely in a 5-gallon bag, right? So we've expanded our knowledge and what we our understanding of how those systems work. Also, when you use, we came up with that program too because soil in Chicago, the quality
pretty
is
bad.
poor and is contaminated.
Yeah.
And we got tired of telling people that it's not a wise idea or necessarily healthy for you to garden directly in ground without going through a testing regimen and all that kind of stuff, right? So we learned from Africa and Latin America and India, different places, that they used bags, mostly like coffee bags, that kind of stuff. But quickly realized they weren't portable. And I guess spirit always tells you or gives you what you need when you ask for it. And so somehow we discovered these grow bags and we created a curriculum that's available to certainly our staff and anybody that you all work with. And we are going to rework that, but it's still valuable in the form that it exists. So the curriculum is available to guide people through that process. And you don't use topsoil in the grow bag. You use potty mix. I mean, all that kind of stuff, right? And how to water and when to water and how, I mean, so all that stuff is there. So that's
Sounds
how we
very
got
beginner-friendly.
started that way.
So I'm interested in grow bags and I have, I guess, extra space or extra land. Can you let me know why it is important to establish a community garden and what I can do to make a successful community garden?
I think community gardens are important when you can do it and you find the space to do it. And you have the core group of people who are interested in doing the detail work. And because often people in the city do not have a space to garden that are interested in gardening. So particularly renters. So that's why community gardens in my mind are really important. And then you have to make decisions about how big are the plots or are you going to do an allotment and charge people? And even a lot of community gardens don't really charge people as much as they pay a fee, mostly under like $25, is my experience. But that supplies some soil and other kinds of things, right? And you have a person or two that are the point person or persons in terms of maintaining the garden. So here, like I live in South Shore, so down at 76, I'm in the 7700 block. The church there, they have a community garden. Even Urban Growers Collective, separate for the farm, they have a community garden. So one of the other people we work with, Natalie Perkins, they have a garden. There's a couple of really nice community gardens here in South Shore. So how you set that up can be done several different ways. So if the site has been remediated and you got a cap and the soil is built up and all that stuff, then you can do some in-ground stuff. But you can also give people, I would say it fits in a 8 by 10, 10 by 10 space. You could put like a dozen 5-gallon grow bags in there and grow a lot of stuff. The other issue becomes, Ya and Cassandra, access to water. Whether you are home, community, whatever the case may be, you gotta have a water source, right? If you're wholly dependent on rain, you know how that can be. You may get too much. You may not get enough. Too much is really not a problem. The grow bags drain really nicely, and that's why you use a potting mix, because they drain much better than topsoil or garden soil, which is why you never use that in your grow bag. So community gardens, again, if you have a core group and you have people that are going to be the organizers, are a great way to go, particularly for people who do not have space otherwise. They also lead to networking, and people connect with each other. People show up, they talk, they become neighborly, if you will.
Yeah, and it's like you read my mind right now. That's exactly what we wanted kind of to discuss as well, to see like what are some of the benefits, not solely on the growing part, but as a person. Like you said earlier, when you were reaching out to the children, it was for something for them to keep busy with, and for them to, still have some kind of normalcy during that crazy time. But within the community, within the adults, within working adults, what do you feel is, or what is some of the benefits that you have seen or you have experienced?
Well, we say food is medicine, but so is sunshine.
Yeah.
So is being outdoors, right? Gardening is some level of movement that you have to do. There's some level of physical exertion or movement that you have to do. So all of those elements are integrated into gardening. There's also opportunities for mental health, a therapeutic value to that as well. There's a whole set of literature and programs and organizations that do horticultural and or garden therapies. Gardening has a host of benefits, whether you can do it at home and community gardens. I know people have home and do community gardens.
Yeah.
So I think in our world now, with us being indoors and working in computers and gaming and being over entertained, if you will, we don't get a chance to get outdoors, and we don't benefit from the value of that. And humans are locked into sort of this evolutionary track where we are designed to be outdoors, if you will. And so that kind of helps to reverse that. So, but and I'm not going to say the downside of that, but then it gets hard in the winter, right? In a place like Chicago, because now you're going like, oh my God, I can't wait, So there's that part of it too, though. But when you can do it, it's really something that I think is more valuable than credit is given. And I appreciate you two doing this podcast and allowing us to discuss what the value of it is, and hopefully increase interest in and spread of gardening, whether it's community gardens or home gardens.
Yes. And then to speak on the therapeutic fact of gardening, the first day, I think I shadowed Tracy at the Urban Growers Collective. I was in like an hour traffic and I was kind of pissed. The moment I stepped in the garden, I was, helping them plant the little grow bags that they were giving out, and just the serene sound of just, I don't know, the plants moving, the sunlight. I forgot the reason why I was in a mad mood in the first place. And it kind of reset myself back to where I was before I was in the hour traffic drive. So I really would speak to the benefit of the community gardens as well with that.
I mean, yeah, that's perfect. I mean, even if I'm not in a bad mood, and I'm generally not, but I can just go sit on my back porch and watch the pollinators and the birds, and every now and then I get a hummingbird sighting or whatever the case may be, and just walking around. I mean, there's a whole nother thing sort of associated with it called forest bathing. where people actually intentionally go into a native natural setting. Just getting out in nature has been shown to have therapeutic value. And again, you don't have to go deep into the redwood forest of California.
Yeah, it's a morale boost. I can see it within my my grandfather, which he's retired. He's at home. Winters are long,
Yeah.
but he is waiting for the season when it gets nice and he can go to his yard and plant his tomatoes, take care of them, and then when he goes to harvest them, there's so many. He gives it to all of us, but you could see that joy that he has, especially when you don't necessarily have a day-to-day routine.
Yeah.
And that really helps, just boost some confidence, boost morale. And
Do you know
Well,
whether
you
he
have to
added
tell me
sugar?
one day what
on there?
Grandpa grows. Because next year we actually we're kind of doing the African diaspora this year, but next year we want to add seeds and seedlings from across the Latin diaspora, if you will. So
I'll bring
whether
them in
you're
like show and tell.
Puerto
Let me show everything you grown.
And your mom
Yeah.
too, because she sounds.
whether you're Puerto Rican or Mexican or Guatemalan, whatever the case may be, we want to integrate seeds and seedlings into that. That's a fascinating kind of cultural piece as well, in understanding people culturally. I remember working at a urban farm years ago, and we had a group of young children, mostly of Mexican descent, show up, and they were kind of looking like, okay, cool. And so then I asked them, I said, so if this was your farm, what would you grow? And they went like, whoa, right, and chiles and tomatillas and So and so no, we want to make sure that all our bases are covered. And then we add, some Pan-Asian kind of stuff to the mix,
Right.
as well. So,
And it
no,
gives an
we're
opportunity
really
to learn from
looking
each other's
forward
culture
to
as well.
this journey, and talking to folks like you, Cassandra, and and your grandpa and all those folks.
The
Like,
whole family.
what can we do? I know some people told me that they actually got some seeds from some stuff that they grow or eat in Puerto Rico that hadn't been available. So they're going to be growing that this year as well. So yeah, we're excited about that trend.
Yeah, well, I hope you share some of the harvest that you do so we can also try out those new, ingredients.
Cultural food. I'm excited for chili. I always like anything spicy, so let me know if it's spicy. Any spicy
Oh, I
peppers
got
that
you.
you might
I
grow.
got you.
Yes, I'll keep you to that promise, Orrin.
All right. Okay. That's fair. That's fair.
So we touched on how community gardens bring morale to the community. I'm an employer, and I want to have that same type of team building, that same type of morale that community gardens have. I want to bring it to my workplace. How can I maintain that garden in the workplace?
If the Yah Corporation wanted to do that,
Yes.
I would recommend that they employ somebody who is going to be the steward of that space, and that can organize the corporate team. I'm assuming from your description that it would basically be people who work there.
Okay.
And so I think you need a specific leadership person, and I would recommend that person not have accounting duties or marketing duties or whatever the case may be. And their job was to organize and maintain everything associated with your corporate community garden. And I think that people that participated at the Yah Corporation would benefit just like anybody else in a community garden space. I think that would be a great idea. But again, got to have the dedicated space, and you got to have at least one dedicated staff person. And the Yah Corporation has to also be responsive to, I need a hose, I need um, plants, I need seeds, I need whatever is required to maintain that space. You have to be responsive to that. I don't think it's necessarily expensive once you've got everything set up either. So that's the other part of it.
How would you keep the employee interested in continuing to utilize that green space in the workplace? Because I'm guilty of this, where I try something new the first week and I'm so into it, and then the next week you don't see me again. So how can we keep the employee interested in that community garden or in that green space in the office?
That's a great question. I would say host events in the space. I would say bring in a Tracy to do yoga, or Miriam to do a cooking demo, and focus it on what's available in the garden at that particular time. So you might want to have somebody like a Miriam come in once a month. And now you would have X, and then in July you would have Y, and in August you would have Z, and in September you'd have double A.
Yeah.
After work kind of thing.
Yeah.
Bring in a DJ.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was gonna say. How would you pitch this to an employer to say, okay, this is valuable of our resources, our time, and the time of our employees? So, and earlier you touched on how it's great for networking, right? Then morale boost. And like right now, if we center it around events, this would also be like an opportunity for professional development
as well.
And also have seating. And make, if depending on how big it is, like even make outdoor rooms, if you will. Invite staff to just come out during break time or lunchtime and just sit. Host other kind of events. Have somebody come and teach mindfulness and meditation, or there's all kinds of stuff you can do in the garden, right?
Yeah.
So I would just have a schedule of that.
Yeah, we were speaking on a different episode about active breaks. So this would be a great area to conduct these as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, if the Yacht Corporation had a big footprint and you had a big enough space, you could do so many different things. I would even have like a little walking track and do that kind of stuff, right?
And that's for sure.
But
It's
I mean,
a place I would like to be employed. So
then,
you're hiring.
Make sure you have space for people to sit and host various events, and encourage people to just come out during break time. Encourage them to get some sun, get some fresh air. Just like go outside for a minute, right? Even have your different departments host their meetings
True.
outside, right? So I think that would be fun, right?
Yeah.
But what would your advice be for the modification purposes of people working hybrid or people working from home?
Yep.
Oh, nothing.
It's still the same.
No, honestly, I would encourage them to see about doing something at home. Like I said, we have a garden space here. In fact, tomorrow I'm going, because we're kind of behind, I'm going to Urban Arts Collective. They have a plant sale, so I'm going to buy a bunch of plants and plant them tomorrow and Sunday. At the same time, I'll start some stuff from seed. And so in the next month or month and a half, the place will be completely transformed. I don't know if you all have seen pictures of our garden or not, but
Not
we
yet.
can certainly share what those look like. I would encourage people to do that. I would also encourage staff to look and see if there's a community garden in their neighborhood. There's some maps and some information about the ones that exist. The problem with that, though, is oftentimes they're packed. They're filled, and they got repeat people and all of that. So I think there could be space for more community gardens to come online. And one way, and that was a great question. I would even look at creating a program for remote workers, a remote worker community garden program, integrating them into community gardens, or making sure that remote workers know that there's community gardens that they can participate in, as well as to create their own home garden, particularly using the grow bags, right?
That would definitely something I'm interested in, since we're hybrid as well. And finally, a plant did not die under my care. So with the advice you have provided with this podcast, I feel like I'm ready to start a garden. Like, I'm going to be poison ivy by the end of today.
Yeah, I mean, most things, like, I liken them to children, if you will, or family, and you have to pay attention,
Yeah.
right? It's like, you have to feed your kids, right?
Yeah.
You have to, and so in the morning you pay attention, and you only add a few minutes, and especially if you've got a small space at home and you've got a dozen grow bags, you add 15 or 20 minutes to your day.
Yeah.
But also your days are longer anyway,
Yeah.
right? And so you go out and you take a look, and you look to see if things look healthy, if something's eating them, or you make sure you water. And then when you get home, you'd be surprised. You get home and you kind of want to plop. You don't, right? You go right out the back and you start looking at stuff, and you make sure you water things for the evening.
Yeah.
You spend a little bit more time outside, and then you come in and plop.
Yeah. A work stayed done. And
Right. So just paying attention, right?
yeah. Thank you so much for all the advice and just all your work you have done when it comes to gardening. I'm definitely going to hold you to that program that you're talking about. Cassandra and I are very interested, and we'll probably jump on that program as well. But if people do like what they're hearing so far, where can they reach you in terms of services, your website, your social media page? We did mention you have a podcast as well. So, just plugging that in as well.
No, the best place is my UIC email.
Email, okay.
And also Orrin, ORRIN, at cutchicago.org. And you can also reach out to the general network at Chicago Grows Food. Just go to the website and you can send an email, and somebody will respond to you in like 24 hours or so. It will be Elizabeth or me or Selma, or somebody will get an answer for you to any problems you may be having. So there's a bunch of resources. Connect with me, connect with those organizations, and you're in the network. And that's the other thing about the gardening community. It's like generally amenable and friendly and helpful. So thank you both. I really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. You gave us really helpful.
Yeah, we
ideas.
really appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to Healthier Habits with your host, Cassandra Zumba.
And Dia Kwachi.
We hope you enjoyed this conversation. Keep an eye out for more episodes and make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell.
Here at CPHP, we have the EATMOVESAVE Meal Kit. This is an e-commerce project dedicated to improving and resolving access to healthy and affordable foods through a meal kit, which is packaged and delivered directly to a family's home throughout Chicago through Talkbox. Visit our EATMOVESAVE website for more information on meal kit ordering and delivery.
You can help support the podcast by liking, sharing, and subscribing, following us on our social media accounts on Instagram as EATMOVESAVE Chicago, Facebook EATMOVESAVE Chicago, and YouTube as UIC OCEAN-HP. Look for the podcast tab for more episodes.
If you'd like more information on partnering with our organization, head over to our website, cphp.uic.edu, and send us a message.
Thank you for joining this chat. Check out our links and resources in the description. See you next time.
Bye. This institution
is an equal opportunity provider. This material is funded by the USDA Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP. Chicago Partnership for Health Promotion is a unit of the Office of Community Engagement and Neighborhood Health Partnerships, representing a network of community-based interventions designed to improve nutrition and reduce disparities in outcomes associated with nutritional diseases, including obesity. CPHP provides high-quality, age, gender, and culturally tailored nutrition education in various venues across the city.
Eat, Move, Save.